Nate, now you are really instrumental behind the marketing campaigns of Damian Lillard. Is this
hmm
first of all, is that the highest level of involvement you've had with any of your clients?
Yeah, I work with Aaron and Eric Goodwin, who have been in the business for about 30 years. As Tom mentioned, they worked with LeBron. They were LeBron's first agents, first 2 seasons. Did his record-setting rookie Nike deal,
Mm-hmm.
um, rookie shoe deal with Nike, and a host of other contracts over those 2 years off the court. Kind of set the platform for him to take off. Did this second largest rookie shoe deal ever with Kevin Durant a few years later. But before that, they had been working with guys like all these 90 stars from Gary Payton,
Gary
Jason
Payton,
Kidd, Paul Pierce,
all the Bay Area guys.
Sharif Abdurrahim, tons of guys. And, I've just kind of like worked side by side with them over the years, really cut my teeth with Dwight. And because when I came in, Dwight and Kevin were our biggest clients, and Candace Parker as well, just like learned doing off the court business with them. And Dame, I've worked with his entire career. So I've never been more hands-on with someone and had the experience that I've had working with Dame. Same thing with DeMar. DeMar doesn't do as much off the court business. He's more, some of the stuff he loves doing, some of it he doesn't. But Dame is definitely open to all of it. So I've had a ton of experience with that.
What makes Dame? I guess what makes any of these guys great marketers? Because you could say, oh, because best player and they're famous, and that should be it. But having worked with players, that some guys are great at this and some guys aren't. What's the separator?
Yeah, I think the separator is number one. People just have to have a natural personality and confidence, right? So if you're scared, I've been on. I want to sit back one day and just count how many shoots and appearances I've done with these guys. But, some don't have it at first and then they develop that confidence over time. But when you're an NBA player, you're doing media sessions, especially if you're a star, you're doing media sessions every single night. So you're either going to get used to it or it's just going to be a disaster for you for your entire career. So people, evolve to that. Like DeMar was not good on camera and in front of all of the media and all that stuff when he first started, to evolving to someone that brands want to use and put out in front. He can be a spokesperson for his team, and he won a Magic Johnson award, right? So you can evolve like that. Or you can be a guy like Dame, who's come in and from day one, he's just got that personality, that confidence. I don't know if it's because, the neighborhood he grew up in, being the youngest in a large family and having to like fight for his own and all that stuff. And then the cherry on top he always talks about is he majored in business sales. And of course, for for that, you have to do a lot of public speaking, pitching, all that stuff. So he took a lot of those classes, and he's like, it prepared me for all of this. Like I'm ready for all of it because I had professors that pushed me to do all this stuff. So yeah.
The names that you've talked about here about your clients and players you've worked with, I'm curious your thoughts on how the NBA should market international players that didn't grow up in America.
That's exactly what because I was thinking like Luka's great and Luka's got a fun personality, and clearly he's been around. You talk about the exposure that he's had the exposure since he was 15 or 16 years old. So why am I not seeing a zillion Luka commercials on
or
TV?
Giannis or Jokic,
who's
or Embiid? Like Embiid's got some ads.
This is what I would say. Jokic does not strike me as a guy who's outgoing in the way that Giannis and Luka are.
Yeah, it's interesting because you bring that up, and I had a thread on Twitter about Jokic and just how he's become, arguably the NBA's best player. He might be 3-time MVP. I don't think we've had a 3-time MVP, an MVP that's won 3 in a row since Larry Bird in the 80s. Yep. And not even MJ did that. Which is, that's going to bring a lot of heat, a lot of attention, all of that. And I don't know if, the average sports fan knows who Jokic is. And I think a big part of that is, as an international player, as a player that's just, kind of coming into this landscape and not really maybe interested in immersing himself into all of this beyond what he does for basketball. As soon as the season's over, he goes right back. He goes right back to Serbia with his horses, and that's his life. But when you're the head of the table, not to bring it back to Roman Reigns, but when you're the head of the table, there are certain responsibilities that come with that. And the league relies on having their best players out in front. And if you look at any of the commercials that are out right now, Jokic isn't on any of them. He's not in anything, any of the big league partners. And it's obvious because I know how the NBA works, that it's not them not wanting to use him. He doesn't want to do it. That they wouldn't just avoid utilizing one of their best players if there wasn't some sort of pushback or anything like that.
How would you market him based on what you know about him and his game and his story?
I think the easiest thing with someone like Jokic is, number one, I think with marketing, you always have to start with PR. So what's his story? What are the, 5 to 10 touch points you're always going to talk about? I don't know Jokic personally, so I can't really dig into that. But beyond that, I mean, he's basically the ultimate table setter. He's the ultimate, right? Like, why is Boban, who obviously is an international player that has a flair for, public persona that is outgoing and all that stuff, and it's easy to utilize. But why is Boban, a guy that's a journeyman, in State Farm commercials, right? Like with having assists and everything else, and you've got
and Goldfish and Chime. Yeah. Like he's got a portfolio.
He's got a portfolio of stuff because he's really tall and he's funny and he dives into it. Whereas Jokic hasn't shown you any of that personality, right? Like we don't know him at all. We don't know him.